Oh, thank you. It is so good to be here. I've never been to Korea before. It is beautiful here, and everyone has been so warm and welcoming and had such hospitality. Thank you very much. It is wonderful to be here. I have appreciated it. And, as we heard before, I love the food. It is fantastic. So we are here today to talk about what we are doing here, about the company that we have, about the technology we have, about this ledger. But I'd rather start just by talking about the vision. And actually, your introduction was very kind. I have not published that many papers. You are very much too kind. But I just want to tell you how it all started. What I was thinking of at the beginning, what we were thinking about, what we were trying to do, and just kind of take you along with us on the journey of how we got to where we are and what we were really wanting to do. So let's talk about just kind of the idea. The idea was that it really should be possible for anyone to just kind of wave their hand and carve out a piece of cyberspace and create a world of their own. Just kind of create a place where you can create things, where you can connect with other people, where you can have trust in it. This was the idea. So it had nothing to do with ledgers and cryptocurrencies and all those things. The idea was just, this is how the internet should work. When I want to have something, I should be able to create a world of my own, anytime you want to, without asking anybody for it. Just create this thing, and you can create things like documents inside this world. And you can invite friends, and you could collaborate in doing things together, doing work together, building new things together. And you could communicate with each other. And you could play games together. And you could interact, buy and sell things. You could interact in other ways. This was the idea. Anyone should be able to, at any time, create a shared world that you all interact in and that you all are involved in. And then when you've invited people, they can invite people, and soon it grows to a dozen or 100 or 1,000,000. It should grow as big as you want. And it doesn't live on a server somewhere. It just kind of lives out in cyberspace. And if your computer is erased, you somehow get the information back. You don't have to think about it. It's just kind of natural. And then if you can create this shared world, you set it up to run a certain way, and it's trustworthy. The rules of the world are enforced. There's no dictator. You don't set it up where you are in control of everything and you can delete anything and you can control it all. No, you set it up the way it should run, and everyone can trust that it will be running that way. If it was a game, then everyone has to play by the rules of the game. If it is a Wikipedia kind of thing, everyone follows the rules for how you create and who can create things and who can delete things, and everyone can maybe vote. Maybe you set it up as a democracy where you can vote on what happens. Or if you want to set it up as a dictatorship, you do that. And if people don't like it, they don't have to join it. You should have the freedom to create whatever you want, and then people can trust that it will be running correctly. But not just one shared world. What we should be able to do is anyone can create more of these worlds. And they should all interconnect with each other. And so maybe you want to create a stock market, and your stock market is trading stocks and trading things with, and paying for them with a cryptocurrency. And there's another one that's the cryptocurrency. Up there in the upper right hand is maybe Hedera, our public ledger that does the cryptocurrency. And so in your various worlds, you're using the things from the other ones. Maybe one of those is a Wikipedia, and then another one is using those pages and displaying them, and it becomes part of it. And they interconnect with each other. And the interconnections all have rules that you can trust. And you understand how it's going to happen, and it is trustworthy. And no one central authority is in control of it all. And no one person can destroy it all. And we can work together and get things done. And that we can play together, and we can connect with each other and socialize together, and that we can have things that are clearly defined, cryptocurrencies or records that we know are true, and do it fast. For some of these applications, you need a lot of transactions per second that you're doing with the speed and security. So that was the vision. And that's what it started off on, was just trying to solve as an interesting math problem, how could you do this? And that was what drove the requirement to be fast, fair, and secure. It wasn't just, hey, wouldn't it be cool to be fast, fair, and secure? It was the actual math problem was, how can I do fast, fair, and secure so that you can create this kind of a world for just how the internet works? Because if you could solve this math problem, then you could make the very nature of what the internet is be different. That was the original goal. That was the vision for where we want to get. And so that's what we did. This led to the creation of the Hashgraph algorithm, which, as Mance has told us, led to swirls, and then finally, with that validation, to Hedera Hashgraph. And we launched that to the world last March, and yesterday we finally signed the paperwork and actually created a governance council that will be governing it properly. It has been a long journey, and we are now at the very beginning. Now comes the fun part. And now comes the part that we've started to build something that now you can build on top of with us. And so I can't wait now to have you be part of us on this journey, and that you can be building the future. We'll make a nice foundation for you, and you can build on top of it, and you can build the future. This is the goal. So what is this then? What is it that we are going to do differently? I mean, how is Hashgraph different? I mean, there's lots of blockchains. There's lots of different ledgers out there. What is going on here that is different? And so there's some things that are interesting, and we've already heard about that. It is fast. It, in some ways, achieves the consensus, achieves kind of the limit of how fast you can be in a single shard. And it's interesting to look at the math of it all. But basically, things spread exponentially fast. You're using almost the limit of 100% efficiency of the bandwidth limit, and you get consensus about as fast as the laws of mathematics would allow. And so in a very fundamental way, it is very fast. And you get latency within a few seconds. And it's finality as well. So this part's actually very important. In this ledger, if you want to transfer cryptocurrency to someone, you say, I want to transfer cryptocurrency. You sign a transaction, you send it into the ledger, and within a few seconds, we have finality. You know that it went through. And the person you gave it to knows that it went through. And you're never wrong. There's not like confirmations that each make you a little bit more sure, but you never really know for sure. It's not like that. You reach finality. There is a moment where you know that this transaction went through. It actually happened. And we never have to reverse. And in other ledgers, people will say, well, if you get to 6, maybe that's good enough. I'm pretty sure, although there have been rare cases where even with 6 confirmations, it still has to revert back. I mean, you discard them and it was a different fork. There have been even worse cases. But here, within a few seconds, you have finality. You know for sure. So that's important. And for some use cases, it doesn't matter, but for some use cases, it's very important to do this. The kind of collaborative vision that I was describing, you have to have this kind of thing. Also, if you want to go to sharding, which means breaking up the network into pieces to get even more speed, you have to have this at the core so that you have finality within a shard so that the other shards can then rely on the first shard. We'll talk more about that, but this is important. But speed doesn't do you any good if you can't trust it. The whole point here was trust. And so are we trusting? We're trusting that you can't double spend, but we're trusting more things too, including new things like fairness. So what is this? When you put a transaction into the system, you ultimately get consensus on it from the whole network agreeing, and the whole network agrees on the time at which your transaction officially reached the network. It is a consensus timestamp. And it is not just the opinion of one node. It isn't like there is a miner that puts a timestamp on the block and that's the official time when we all sign off on that block. It's not like that. It's more like your transaction, when it goes into the network, spreads like wildfire, exponentially fast until everyone has it. It's a gossip protocol, so it's very fast. And then we find out when each of the computers first received it. And we can take that list of times and take the middle one. We put them in order, take the middle one, the median. And that is when your message reached half of the world, when it reached the majority of the world. That is the consensus timestamp. And we have strong mathematical guarantees that we will come to the same consensus. We will all agree on this timestamp, and no one computer can corrupt it. No one could make it be 1,000 years in the future or 1,000 years in the past. Already we're seeing people start to have applications where this matters. Atomic swaps between ledgers, timestamps matter. You can have contracts where you say something happens at a certain time and the timestamp matters. You might want to prove to a court that you released information at a certain date. If you had a way of getting a proof, which we also have, we'll talk about state proofs, the timestamp matters. With Hashgraph, which is what Hedera is built on, you can trust the timestamp to be fair. And when we put a bunch of transactions into the system, they're all put in order by their timestamp. So you can trust the ordering to be fair. We have fair ordering of our transactions. Now, if I'm just paying people, does it really matter what order? Yes. Because if I only have one H-bar in my account, but I try to pay one H-bar to two different people, I've done double spend, the first one will work. The second one won't. So it matters which one was first. Or if you're playing a game, if there's an object in like a massively multiplayer online game, if you're playing an MMO, there's an object there, a value. You try to pick it up, and I try to pick it up. It matters who was first. And if you really were first, you want the game to give you credit for being first. It'd be bad if I could cheat and somehow convince the game that I was first when I really wasn't. And so we need fair transaction ordering. If you're in a stock market, stock markets depend on things like fair ordering. It would be a disaster if you didn't have fair ordering. And so we want to have fair ordering, otherwise no one would use a stock market. And we have that. And we have fair access. No one's in control. There is no leader, not even taking turns being a leader. So there is no one leader who could stop your transactions from getting into the system. All of the computers in the system are equal, and you can talk to any of them and say, please take my transaction, and it can do it. If you want even more reliability, you can give your transaction to several of the computers, and if even one of them is honest, you're good. You have fair access. It is very hard to stop you from getting access. If an attacker is trying to shut down the network and they can shut down a few of the computers, you still have access. Use any of the other computers. Any of the other computers would help you. So fairness is important. It is a little bit important for a few of the applications running today on ledgers, and it is crucially important for future applications like the ones I've been mentioning. But we aren't just fast and fair, we are also secure. A ledger has no point if it isn't secure. If you have to give up everything, you can give up everything except for security. There's no point in having a ledger if it isn't secure. This is why blockchain was invented, and this is why distributed ledgers exist. It's for security. But it turns out there are different levels of security. Some are more secure than others. There are different ways you can be secure. Secure means you can survive attacks, but there are different kinds of attacks. And so what do we have? We want to be secure in the strongest way possible, which turns out to be this thing called asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance, ABFT. What does that mean? Well, if you don't have ABFT, maybe you only have BFT. That's almost as good. And if you don't have that, maybe you don't have anything. That's almost as good. If you don't have anything, it's possible that we might have double spending, where we come to different consensuses, which isn't a consensus. And this can happen. When there are ledgers where if you can partition the network, you can actually come to different consensuses. That would be bad. Maybe you're slightly better and you have BFT, which says, well, at least we'll come to the same agreement, but we might get shut down. We might have unfairness in various ways that is bad. Asynchronous BFT, ABFT, says we will come to a conclusion, a consensus. We will know that we came to a consensus. There will be finality. You won't just become a little bit more sure and sure and sure over time. You will know. You will guaranteed reach that, and you will guaranteed reach that even if attackers can shut down individual computers. Even if an attacker can build a firewall around many of your computers and stop them from communicating, or let some messages through the boundary but not other messages, or let some messages through fast but make other messages slow. If the attacker can do all these things and you're still okay, it is ABFT. So BFT means we'll come to conclusion, they'll have finality, and we'll all come to the same conclusion, and it's guaranteed to happen eventually. ABFT means it's even sure when we have these sorts of attacks. Is BFT good enough? Do we really need ABFT? Sadly, yes. Distributed denial of service attacks are a real-world thing. These are attacks where someone compromises many computers on the internet and they flood you with messages and shut you down and prevent you from talking. This happens in the real world. These are real attacks. And if your system is so fragile that shutting down one computer will shut down your whole network, that's a disaster. Maybe not when we're just playing some games right now, but when we go to using ledgers for important things in the real world, will it matter if you can shut it down for a few hours? Yes. If you could shut down all the banks in the world for a few hours, would that matter? That would be bad. If you could shut down a store, like, an online store, and the whole business shuts down for a few hours, would the business care? Yes, that would be bad. We cannot have that. We have to be able to survive DDoS attacks. Well, what if we're BFT, but we're not ABFT, but at least we take turns on which computer is the leader? Would that be good enough? No, sadly not, because you could keep attacking different computers. The attack could switch. So we need real security, ABFT. It's hard to achieve, and speed at the same time. But that's what Hashgraph does, and that's important. Furthermore, none of this technology matters. It never matters if you do not have good governance. You need people in charge of it who are competent, know what they're doing, and are trustworthy. If you can't trust them, all the technology in the world is useless. If the technology is constantly allowing the network to split, then there are severe problems. I don't want to store the real estate records of who owns a house on the network if it's going to split. The governors need to govern it and prevent the split. Because if you could have forking that allowed splits, then you could have a ledger that remembers who owns what house, and you could use that to do title searches. You could do that to find who owns a house, but then when it splits, you have two ledgers now that remembers who owns my house. And if I sell my house, one ledger might get updated and not the other one. And then when you want to know if you can buy it, you have to find out who owns it. And it doesn't work because different ledgers say different things. We have to stop this kind of splitting. And so you need good governance that you can trust, and it needs to have the ability to govern. Very important. And so this is a distinctive thing that we have that is very important. So then, what are we going to do with this? What is our roadmap? Well, I'll tell you. Right now, we have a proof of stake system, which means the security comes down to the tokens, not proof of work, where you have to use lots of electricity on expensive computers, and they all get consolidated in one country. Instead, we'll do proof of stake, spread out. No one person controls all the money. No one country controls all the hashing power. It's well spread out. Anybody can join because you don't have to have a supercomputer. And we'll allow staking and proxy staking, which is very cool, which I'll talk about. We have the 3 services that Mance talked about: cryptocurrency, file service, smart contracts. We're optimizing for cryptocurrency to be fast and cheap because it's fast, low fees. So you can afford to send someone 1/100th of a penny, maybe to read an article on a website. And we've demonstrated that on our mainnet. This is what we have. And we have optimized for these micropayments and optimized to allow you to earn by running a node or even proxy staking, even if you don't run a node. And we are allowing you to get information from the network in several ways that are important. And so for the micropayments, the fast, tiny payments, this is a copy of the daily timestamp, an actual website we've created that you can pay for with HBARs on the mainnet, a little tiny bit as you read each article, which means you don't have to be bothered with advertisements, which means if you don't have advertisements, you don't have to have someone spying on you. And you don't have to sign up for a subscription. You just pay ad hoc. Ad hoc means anytime you go to a website, if you want to read the article, you can do so. And you can pay the penny to do it or the fraction of a cent to do it. You don't have to have a subscription you signed up for. You don't have to pay them every month. You don't have to give them your credit card number. It's all just invisible and smooth and easy to do. And you have control of it. And it's not advertising, so they don't have to spy on you. It's a different way of doing things. In addition, you can earn. If you run one of the nodes, and eventually we'll allow everyone to be running nodes, you stake some of your HBARs. But you don't bond them. You don't tie them up forever. You can always spend them anytime you want. You can take them out anytime you want. It's just while they're there, they're sitting there, and they're influencing how much influence you have over the network. And Hedera pays you every day for running a node. Thank you for running the node. In addition, if you don't run the node and you have some HBARs, you can proxy stake them. You can choose one of the nodes and say, I'm sending my HBARs proxy staking to that node. And you increase how much influence it has. Again, you don't lock them up. There is no slashing. There's no way that you could ever lose your HBARs. There's no way the node could ever lose its HBARs. There's no punishments. Even if the node does bad things, we don't take its HBARs. Your HBARs are safe. We just, well, prevent it from doing bad things. It's a very resilient network. And we could make it stop being a node, but we don't take away HBARs. It's all very friendly. And then by proxy staking, there are payments that then go to you and to the node. It benefits from you doing that. And you can ask for data. You can ask the network, hey, what is my current balance? What's in this file? Has the file been deleted? And no matter which computer you ask, it can give you the answer. And it can't lie. It tells the truth. Even if it's a bad person running that computer, they have to tell you the truth. You know why? Because they give you a state proof. And it's cryptographically secure. It shows that whatever answer they're telling you, the whole network agreed on. It's not just their opinion. So they can't lie because of the state proof. And you can even ask questions like, has this file been deleted? And they can say, yes, it was deleted. And they give you the state proof. And they can't lie. And you can take that state proof to a third party. You could take it to a court and prove that the file was deleted. So you maybe have an obligation to tell the world information, like a quarterly report for your company. You can put it on the ledger. and get a proof that you can show others, yes, I really did release that information. And then maybe when you're supposed to delete it with GDPR, you can prove that you deleted it, and you can prove to a third party. This is a whole new way of handling data from a ledger, and you can do this. Furthermore, you don't have to ask a node on the ledger, you could ask a mirror net node. We're setting up a way, this is on our roadmap, of creating a mirror net, even more nodes that aren't involved in consensus, but they are getting a complete copy of everything that happens on the network, a complete mirror of all the data. And then they could give you this data. Maybe they give it to you cheaper, or maybe they give it to you for free, or maybe you run a mirror node and you get all the information. Maybe they decide to store historical information and can tell you about the past. There's whole business models that could be run on mirror nodes. And this is on our roadmap, for we will be building this year, we expect. Lots of interesting things you can do with these mirror nodes. And they increase the transparency. There is nothing secret and evil that the network could do that you wouldn't know about, because the mirror nodes can see all your software, they're running the software, and they can see what's going on in the network and track whether it's actually doing what it said it would do. There is no way the council even could fool people into thinking it's doing something it isn't. Total transparency from the mirror nodes. And I said it has new businesses that it enables. There's all sorts of uses for it, and it's secure. We will also, I keep talking about the network as being all these computers that see your transaction, but as we grow, we'll have shards. We'll break it up into pieces, and because each shard is running Hashgraph, which is ABFT, very, very secure, and has state proofs, it can talk to other shards and show them state proofs. And so when we glue them together, the whole network is ABFT. And if one shard is fast because it's running Hashgraph, then when we glue them together in a way that the whole network is even faster. If one is trustworthy because of the way we're building this, all of them will be trustworthy. And if you get finality in one shard because we're running Hashgraph, the whole system will have finality. And so this is ideal for building a sharded system. So I told you that Hashgraph was kind of running at the limits of what the internet would allow and what the laws of mathematics would allow for speed. It's more or less as fast as you can get for consensus in a single shard. But what if you want to get faster than the laws of mathematics allow? That's sharding. You can be faster than could be possible with one shard. And so we will grow for that. Turns out there are use cases where sharding doesn't help. That's why you want a single shard to be fast. But there are other use cases where sharding helps a lot. And so we do sharding. And so that is on our roadmap, is to add sharding as well. These are some of the things that are on the roadmap for what we're doing. We are very much, though, looking forward to you building on this foundation, building dApps on this foundation, building applications that use it, building use cases. You know we have 300 companies already building these dApps. We're talking to many more. Our council members have ideas, and I would like to invite you to be joining us on this journey and to helping us build this future. And so this is Hedera Hashgraph, and I just want to thank you. This is what we are doing.